People who don't reply until days later, why? I don't know, it's like I just can't. It feels overwhelming, so instead, I like to consistently go through a cycle of forgetting to respond and then chastising myself for not replying, so I decide I'll do it later, but then I forget. It's just on and on and on until I finally do, and it's always, hey. Sorry for just responding. Fill in blank here. P.S. Thanks for the reminder, I just texted my friend who texted me back on Tuesday. This was the push I needed. This, exactly. Especially with emails. I'll want to respond thoughtfully and with multiple points. I know it will take more than 10 seconds, which all the time I might have in the moment, so wait until later. Then I frequently forget. Yeah, this resonated with me. I've often felt that I don't have presence to engage in this conversation right now. Yes to this, and also, I grew up at a time where I couldn't be reached and asked to do things 24/7. I didn't give up my right to time for myself because technology makes it possible for me to be reached at all times. 100% this, I want to give the person my whole attention and not replying something half-assed. And a lot of things on my plate, so it might take time until I have that attention to give. Responds with okay 3 days later. Yup. Or I am just generally burned out energy-wise and don't want to engage with only one-word answers and emojis. I do sometimes and then respond in depth later. Sometimes the depth isn't really deep, but I'd rather form at least one kind of full sentence than just do okay. I am also totally fine with people taking their time unless it is urgent, like talking about meeting someone. I don't want an answer 10 minutes before I would have to go face with tears of joy. I also don't do that myself. I often spend way too long crafting a response here on Reddit because I want to make sure I'm being helpful and I'm clear and not easily misunderstood. Half the time, I end up not even posting my comment because I'm not sure about it or because it just doesn't matter. Then, if I do hit that save button, I read it over again and end up editing my comments. I'd guess more than half of my comments have the edited asterisk on them. With me, I'll read it and then just come up with a response by thinking about it while I do errands and the like. Sometimes it will be days later. Another scenario would be as follows: I read it and just don't care, so if I think of a specific response I'll send it, but if not, then I guess you're not hearing from me. That explains why most people are lazy buttholes, can't even say hi and good when asked a simple question even. At least I fucking try. I'm an introvert and it actually takes a lot of energy for me to respond to people. I much prefer talking in person to someone, but for some reason messaging drains me. It's nothing against the person I haven't responded to, and I usually tell my friends it's the way I am and they understand. So unless it's urgent, it could take me a couple of days to respond until I have the energy. And you have been the push I needed. I had 5 conversations I hadn't replied to, loudly crying face. I'm exactly the same, haha. For me, as an introvert and someone with social anxiety, it drains my battery cause I try to put in care to make sure something I say in text won't come off the wrong way, since I can't convey tone. And as someone who uses a lot of sarcasm/hyperbole in their speech, I can't use that same thing in text, which makes responding through it harder. But in person those aren't problems, so it makes responding easier and less draining. Whoa, so crazy to read about so many like-minded people. It's a fucking relief for me kinda, lol. My depression is mostly the reason for this behavior, I think at least. JSYK, this is extremely indicative of ADHD. I tend to find the willpower to overcome this. It feels impossible to respond and feeling once I've taken my Ritalin for the day. Ironically, it's because I often try to be thoughtful in my responses. Sometimes I will read a message and I won't have the will or time to give it the thought or depth that it requires, so I'll put it off to when I can really think about it. Oftentimes it slips my mind because my working memory is kind of trash. I'd much rather intentional and thoughtful conversation than replying just to reply. I also rarely touch my phone when I'm engaged in hobbies, at work, or social functions. That's a lot of time where I simply won't check my phone unless it's an emergency. Now that I can send messages completely hands-free, I will occasionally send a few when I'm driving, but still generally don't. I gave up on thoughtful responses. They always went like this. Friend, so what's the plan for next week? Me, 5 minutes later I made a few plans but wanted to run them by you. I'd like to, plan 1, but also know you're a fan of, plan 2. So I'm open to either. For lunch there's this new place, link, that's awesome, but if you're on one of your health kicks then these are also good healthier options, links. Let me know if anything above sounds good so I can get tickets and make RSVPs. Haven't seen you in forever, so I'm super excited to hang out again. Friend, 2 days later thumbs up. Sometimes in the process of doing this, my brain seems to register the task as done because I've thought about it thoroughly. Then a week later I'm trying to go to sleep and remember that I never actually typed and sent the message. Except, I never forget. I just keep putting it off because I can't bring myself to take the time. I have a forever list of people in my head to whom I am supposed to reply to, in text, email, PM. It can be months that I have someone on my list.